I knew what I was looking for in the sense that, and I think that's what's important. If you're sitting there talking, I've been fortunate enough to talk to the 35 under 35 class for the last couple of years, like looking back at it, I knew, I told those guys the same thing I'm telling you now, like I wasn't, for me, it was never, man, can I just become a head coach? That's all I care about. Because I knew you get one shake at it, and you were just talking, about a couple of guys that have done this, like you get one shake, man. Like very few guys get a second chance at it. And the most important thing at the end of the day is that in that one shake, you win football games.
Welcome to Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm. Each episode pulls back the curtain on the coaching profession, spotlighting voices from every level of the game and offering lessons and insights for your own path. But first, a word from CoachComm.
Deuce left, check with me. If they're in quarters match, we're going to Pittsburgh or Ohio.
They're in zero.
Let's go Hippo, Seattle, wide choice. If we call the protection right, it's 6.
When a play call is the difference between winning and losing, your headset choice could be your most important decision. When the call counts, CoachComm is the only choice for clear, dependable communication. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
We got it, guys. Good job.
Follow Inside the Headset on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to our YouTube channel for exclusive content. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like and leave a review. It really helps others discover the show. We drop new episodes each week, so hit that follow button and never miss a moment. Now, let's get inside the headset.
Man, this is a special one. I'm back with Coach Golesh. We had him on around last year around this time, and it was just so good. And I've been fortunate enough to build a good relationship with Coach Golesh. Man, I want to bring him back on and talk a little bit about, you got the job, right? You finally got the head coaching job. And so, anyways, kind of wanted to introduce that a little bit because this will be a little bit different here. Coach Golesh, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm awesome. I appreciate you having me back on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, you kind of heard what we're talking about here, and I kind of want to get started with, you were having a heck of a run there at Tennessee, and I can imagine you probably had a few phone calls. You end up on the phone with South Florida. All jobs are interesting when you take them. Either the guy got fired or the guy was having some major success and then he left. What are some of those things that you look at and you're considering whenever you're looking to take a head job?
Yeah, I think every day I wonder which situation would be easier to take over for. I think the biggest thing going back, that going into that second year at Tennessee was in the summer, really about this time, was actually taking the time to sit down and have the time to actually put a plan together, and I'm so process driven where I never think of two things at once, and maybe I'm just not smart enough, but I've never, at that point, had never sat down and really put a plan together. And so after the first year at Tennessee, I got some phone calls and I was like, man, I hadn't really thought about it. I felt like I spent all my whole career getting ready to be an offensive coordinator. And at that point, I'd been a coordinator for a while. And I'm like, man, I hadn't really prepared or hadn't really thought about it. And so I took a week and my wife and I went down to Antigua and literally sat on the beach for a week and spent all day putting a plan together. And by plan, I mean, literally from staff to what is the first day going to look like, second day going to look like, third day going to look like, day by day for 60 days. And then what's month 3 going to look like, a month 4 and month 5. Because I knew once you got to whatever the situation was going to be, that you weren't going to have time to think about it. You were going to have to go execute a plan. And I kind of looked at it almost from an offensive game plan standpoint, like, man, if this happens, what are you going to do? If this happens, what are you going to do? And I think my background unique in some ways because I had been a part of taking over programs 4 times, each situation a little bit different, but lucky enough that in each situation I was in a position with the head coach where I was in the inner workings of the hiring and the recruiting and the roster management and, getting to the Tennessee time, helping with the NIL structure and and building of the collective, it was such a big piece of at the time that I took this job, that was such a huge part of it. And so going into the season, I felt like I closed the notebook and put it away, but felt like, all right, now I'm actually ready. In that same period, had met with the search firms to where I knew at least I was on their radar, and they knew at least my skill set and what they were going to go push when the time came. So this job in particular, for me, it was intriguing. And I say this job specifically because there was opportunities after that season, and I knew because of that week, I knew kind of what I wanted, but I also knew what I needed to go be successful. Because I think the biggest thing, because I felt like I had one of the best jobs in the country. I was the offensive coordinator at Tennessee, working for an incredible guy in Josh Heupel.
Yeah.
With incredible staff. We were recruiting at a high level. And there's very few places like Tennessee. And I think unless you've been there, obviously the fan base, what the brand is, and then taking that program from really, really, really struggling to, we spent a portion of that year as the number one team in the country and played some incredible games, like big games in Knoxville, Tennessee. There's very few things cooler than that. And for me, I was with a bunch of really, really good people making more money than I ever thought I would make. And there was nothing I wanted.
Yeah.
And so it was going to take an opportunity that I thought I could be really, really successful at to even walk away from that. Cause I knew how fortunate I was to have that job. And I never took it for granted. And so I knew what I was looking for in the sense that, and I think that's what's important. If you're sitting here talking, been fortunate enough to talk to the 35 under 35 class the last couple of years, looking back at it, I knew, I told those guys the same thing I'm telling you now, I wasn't, for me, it was never, man, can I just become a head coach? That's all I care about. Right. Because I knew you get one shake at it, and you were just talking, about a couple of guys that have done this, you get one shake, man. Very few guys get a second chance at it. And the most important thing at the end of the day is that in that one shake, you win football games. Beyond anything else, and you could paint whatever picture you want, the reality is you have to go win football games in your one opportunity you get. And so for me, it was the opportunity to be able to go win football games. Whether it was going to be a situation where the staff got fired or the staff moved on, it was going to have to be a situation where I could go win football games. And this one presented all the right things for me to be able to come in and build a program. It was also going to be really, really important that I could be at a place that would give you the time to build it. If you were going to take over for a situation that wasn't good, you needed to make sure you had the time to build it. And do they want to build it by using every imaginable shortcut to just go win as fast as you can? Or do you want to build a sustainable program that'll last over time? And I knew for me, I wanted to try to build a program that was going to be sustainable over time. And then I knew what I thought we needed to be able to be successful. Can you put a staff together was number one. Do you have the resources and the money to be able to put a staff together, not just the 10 full-time assistants, but truly the support staff and the structure you need to be successful, both for your players to be successful and you as the head coach to be successful. And then I'd be lying to you if I told you that at that time, the NIL piece, now the revenue sharing piece, was that structure there, or was I going to have to build it? And if I was going to have to build it, do I have the resources to go build it? Because at the end of the day, the player acquisition side and the player retention side are maybe the biggest part of what we're doing now. And so I knew those pieces, the staff and the player acquisition and retention, were going to be the most important things. So could I find a place where that was possible? Fortunately here, you were able to do all that in Tampa, Florida, and a program that that the ceiling was whatever you wanted it to be in a program that was so hungry and desperate to go win and were willing to invest at a crazy level that I thought it was a no-brainer in that regard.
Now, you talked about going to the beach and spending a week, laying this deal out. Now, a little bit of this, you got to speculate, I guess, in the way I'm going to frame this question. But first part of it is, how did that hold up for your time? Was it something that you were able to kind of really stick to and kind of be like, okay, day 30, I'm kind of on pace and I'm checking all the boxes I need to be checking? And then the second part of the question, which, like I said, might need a little speculation, is like, did that just happen to work out where you are in South Florida, and if all of a sudden you took a different job in that fashion, maybe it doesn't apply? Did you find that was a pretty solid plan to walk into this thing with, I guess is the question?
Yeah. I think I would tell you the first 30 days were pretty spot on. And when I tell you I walked in, opened the book, and literally the first page was staff. And when you go into an interview, they want to know who your coordinators are going to be. They want to know, are you able to bring recruiting ties to the area? Like, those things are important going into the interview. So you had opened that book already at that point. And there was the staff piece was, I had literally almost a recruiting board. Like you would have, man, here's my top guy. If I can't get him, it's the next guy. If I can't get him, it's the next guy. And if I can't get him, man, I'm going to have to go outside of my comfort zone. But that's why the resources to be able to go hire a staff are so important, because you've got to be able to, guys, as much as guys will come and work for you, they're not going to leave a lot of money on the table to go move their family across the country too. So that's why that piece was so important. But the staff, I knew, man, if it was going to be in the Southeast, I was going to have enough guys that knew the recruiting landscape in the Southeast. If it was going to be in the Northeast, in the Midwest, on the West Coast, whatever, I knew I would have to move some pieces around to have recruiting ties. But in terms of the core foundation of the staff, I had a good feeling with who I thought would come with. I think in terms of the plan, so that was the first page or first couple pages. And then as you went into day one, I think through the first 30 days, sit down with your current players, and at that time the portal window was open right then. And so you're sitting here meeting with your players, some of which are already in the portal. And here I took over a job where the staff had been fired for 4 weeks already. So these guys had a month to sit there and think about what they were going to do. And so some guys are in the portal, some guys you're trying to keep out of the portal, some guys you're good with leaving, and some guys you're begging to stay, but ultimately met with the players first. And that was the most important thing. And then after that, meet with the staff that's here, so those guys aren't left hanging and knew at least where my mindset was. And then you had to go and as you're hiring a staff at that point, December, you could go out on the road. You're on the road recruiting while you're hiring and while you're trying to retain a roster. And obviously the roadmap there were some curveballs thrown in there, but for the most part, through the first 30 days, it was. And as the next 30 and the next 30, which led you into winter workouts and into spring ball, that plan was literally followed almost to a T. And it certainly helped to have a roadmap, because I think if I sat down and didn't truly have a plan thought out, especially as a first-time head coach, I think I would have failed drastically really quickly. But I think it gave us a chance to go and have some success in year one, to where you could get through the year and then sit down and reevaluate right away. Because I think the biggest thing that if I learned through all of the transitions over the years is in recruiting, especially right now where the recruiting is really important, but the retention is more important, you had to have proof of concept in year one. Whatever that looked like, I thought to be able to come in and have a level of success on both sides of the ball and then obviously wins and losses. I thought it was important to be able to go recruiting year 2 with a confidence level in your program, both internally and obviously externally, that, hey man, like, they flipped it quick. Yeah. Now, can we sustain it? But at least you've got proof of concept of this is what we do on offense, this is what we do on defense, not showing film of some other school that, man, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to be. Right. Because basically action speaks way louder than words.
So you kind of hit the recruiting piece, and obviously throughout your career, obviously a brilliant offensive mind, but I think early on a lot of people identified you as just a strong recruiter. That was kind of your MO early on. Right now, I can't even tell you what the heck y'all are doing on the road. I don't know what recruiting even looks like right now, because so much stuff is just changing so rapidly. Have you found that to be advantageous for a guy like yourself who, just took his first head job in 23, as his stuff is changing, you're able to kind of adapt more quickly with it versus, hard to speak for a guy that maybe been in it for a lot longer, but I mean, it's night and day from what it was. 10 years ago, 2015 recruiting is way different than what it is now, with player retention, the portal, all the kind of things that are involved. How have you been able to adapt with these changes as a new head coach?
Yeah, I think my first full-time job at Toledo, I was a 23-year-old young guy. So the head coach made me the recruiting coordinator. I was like, oh my God, like, at that time it was me and one off the field guy. And it was at that time miserable. I think looking back at it, I was the recruiting coordinator there. I was the recruiting coordinator at Illinois. Then I was the recruiting coordinator at Iowa State. Like, that time as the recruiting coordinator really, really helped me from an organizational piece. Like I knew the inner workings of recruiting, but building a recruiting department, building a creative media side, building even graphics and design, even the sit down meetings over the years of building a brand and building a head coach's brand, that stuff really, really helped in terms of just big picture organization. The ability to go recruit, I think you've got or you don't have, in terms of just the willingness to build relationships, the willingness to dig deep into who the decision makers are. I think the huge advantage we have here just geographically is we don't have to go super far for high school guys. A majority of our guys come from Florida, Georgia, and then you sprinkle in a little bit more throughout the Southeast. But for the most part, that's where they come from. We're lucky. We're in one of the best recruiting states in the country. We're certainly in the best recruiting region in the country in terms of when you combine Florida and Georgia and the Carolinas and Alabama and Louisiana. Like, and if you can't find 25 guys in this region, like, you ain't gonna find them. Right. And so there's a lot. Now, that also means that every school in the country is down here recruiting. So that there's pluses and minuses, but I think one of the more attractive things about this job geographically beyond just the recruiting ground is because everybody is recruiting here, a lot of guys tend to leave the state. I spent most of my career convincing guys why they should leave the state of Florida and come to the Midwest. Or, like, man, like, you don't really want to be in the sun year round, right? Like, you like, there's so much fun stuff to do in the snow here, and but all joking aside, I knew those guys would want to come home at times for different reasons. And I wanted to be that landing spot for guys when you talk about the portal. And so that's where, when you say, man, can you adjust and can you move with the times? I think you want to be in a place where home is a place where they want to be, and home is a place where they want to come home to. And so I think as much as the recruiting side of it, I've always enjoyed building the relationships. I think I've always enjoyed the detailed part of the recruiting. Now, the flip of it, and I think if I've learned anything and I've truly developed here, is the retention is probably even more important than the recruiting. I heard, I saw on Twitter, Kenny Dillingham made a point of, man, it's not recruiting anymore. it's retention. And I couldn't agree more in the sense of it's still a game of development. And I don't care what level you're at. And I don't care what conference you're in. They come in as 17, 18-year-old young men, and you've got to develop them. And that's physically, that's mentally, that's in every aspect of their life off the field. And you've got to develop these guys, and they're always going to be better in year 3 and 4 than somebody that you're going to bring in that you're going to have for a year or two. And we've had to bring in some guys that have a year or two that we feel like fit who we are and what we're building. But you truly are still developing guys, and the ability to retain them, I think, is absolutely critical. And that's not just a money piece. That's guys that crave relationship. That's guys that crave development. That's guys that understand that we're here to help them, but also hold them accountable and help them grow. And I've always enjoyed the recruiting part, and I've had success in the recruiting part, but there's still nothing more enjoyable or fun to me than actually getting on the field and coaching these guys and developing them and being a part of their lives day to day. That's the part I enjoy the most.
Yeah. The retention line has been, a lot of these conversations I get to have pre and post podcasts and stuff. I mean, that's something that's coming up, and it doesn't even matter what level, it's become a big retention game. When you talk about retention, you don't have to get into very, very specifics, but like, well, what does that entail? Because I'm hearing guys saying I got to go back and recruit my own guys again, in December and stuff like that. So, what does that look like? A guy's on your roster and retaining him and recruiting him over again.
Yeah, Mario, I think, I've heard so many guys make that comment, man, I got to go recruit my own guys. I've been kind of vocal about it. I do think that that's like a crazy statement. I think if you are going to recruit your own guys in December, like, man, you jacked some shit up seriously for the last 11 months.
Yeah.
And I say that like half joking, but half not. I think it's made us all really highly cognizant of what is the culture within our program, and what are these guys what premise are they recruited on? Because if the premise that they got recruited on was man, like, I'm coming here because I'm getting broke off here and not anywhere else, like, I think your relationship is always going to be about that. I think if they were recruited on the premise that they're going to come in and here's what we could do for your son, nephew, grandson, whatever it is, here's what we can and will do, but at the same time, here's what he's got to do here as well. And I think when the picture is painted very honestly and very truthfully, and I have been highly, highly guarded, and going back to being an assistant coach, but certainly more visible now, like, I've been highly guarded of how honest we are through the recruiting process. That it like when you come on a unofficial visit or an official visit, it is very much sunshine and rainbows, man. Like, you're gonna put your best foot forward. You're gonna show everybody what you have to offer. And again, we're fortunate. We're in Tampa. This is one of the best cities in the country to live. You've got anything and everything you could ever want to do. You got the best beaches in America right here. It's sunny every single day, and the weather's incredible year round. Like, there's a lot to like. But if those are all the reasons you're coming here, we skip the part where you wake up every morning at 5:30 and you come in here, and we demand that you show up and your attitude, your effort is elite, and we demand that you work as hard as anybody in the country and change your body, and you learn the game and you study the game. And then, by the way, like, you're going to have to be an elite teammate. And man, I don't know if you're going to start as a freshman. I know everybody's telling you are, but there's other guys at your position and you're going to have to go win a job. Oh, and by the way, like, at the end of the day, like, there's only 12 Saturdays a year where everything that we talked about on your official visit happens. The rest of it, you got to, like, put your head down and grind. Now, it's nice that the weather's awesome, and it's nice that on your time away, you can do some incredible things here, and you're in Tampa, and it's a great place to build a brand, and there's a really high probability that you're going to live here. Your life after football is going to be right here, because it is for most pro athletes that have ever been here. But here's the truth of what this really is. And I think the guys that get scared by the truth, you're like, man, I'm glad he didn't want to come here. The guys that are like, man, like, that's what I want. I want real. I want truth. I want somebody to be on my ass. I want somebody to demand excellence of me every single day. Man, you hope that if those guys are the ones running to it, then you're getting the right kind of kids. And at the end of the day, I think that's where the retention piece comes in. I think it starts on the front end of it, where if they got recruited on truth and they got recruited on relationship and they got recruited on not false promises, and at the end of these December meetings, and now they happen in December and April, and Coach Bowl has promised all of us he's working on getting that changed, but they're happening several times a year. Like, man, my question, it's like flipped. It's, man, has this program, has your coach, your coordinator, our support staff, myself, have we done everything we told you we were going to do? You have. Awesome. Then you're good. I'm good. Because at the end of the day, like, we only have one motto saying whatever. I'm not a big like wristband mottos on the wall type person. Like, we have one: be who you say you are. Like, are we being who we say we are as a staff? And then are you being who you say you are as a player? Man, like, everything you said in recruiting, you said you were going to do this and you wanted to be that and you wanted to play in the NFL and you wanted, like, did you do everything you said you were going to do? And if both sides are doing that, then why would you want to go somewhere else?
Yeah.
Now, if on either side it's not matching, then yeah, like maybe it's time for a change in either direction. But that's why I think the retention piece is so much based on the front end and the honesty and real authentic relationship on the front end and throughout, that you don't feel like in December you got to go recruit your own players. Yeah. That's just my opinion, and I get the saying, and I get when people say it. I understand what they're saying, but I think to me it's so important to just be who you say you are throughout the entire process, because if you are, then you shouldn't have a reason to go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's powerful, Coach. I appreciate you sharing that outlook. Now, once again, we're talking about you kind of taking the helm of a program, and not just you as an individual, but as you're learning some of the lessons that you learn. Culture, right? Buzz term, culture is obviously important, right? And it's obviously a real deal. Obviously a lot deeper than words on the wall, but I want to talk about that specifically. You take over a program and, you want it to be built on X, Y, and Z. How do you instill that? And I'm really focusing right now on a physical aspect, like, in the hallway, outside the locker room, are we slapping something outside? What did you kind of look around and say, hey, where can I embed my culture at around this facility?
Yeah, I'll give you a funny story. So like I said, we have one, be who you say you are, in terms of, I don't know, motto, battle cry, whatever you want to call it. That was the one thing I said, man, I want on that wall in the team room. And then on the other side of the team room, and the be who you say you are, it does. I had it put up on the practice field. It's right outside our team meeting room. It's in all the meeting rooms. And it was that way for me at Tennessee in our offensive rooms. That's what it was there as well. And on the other side of the team room, it's got our core values. And those were the two things I thought, man, like, our core values, like, are in how we truly are wired, how we're going to build this program day by day, and things that will transcend time, and then this be who you say you are piece. And those are really, in terms of physical appearance, those are really the two things that were really, really important to me. We had talked before you started this, like, man, like, aren't the other head coaches things on the wall?
Yeah.
Well, in our locker room here, and right before I got here, a year before I got here, we redid the locker room, like, gutted it out, and the locker room is beautiful. And in these, like, incredibly expensive, like, I don't know what material, but these lit up letters is is the saying of the previous head coach, or like the motto of the previous head coach. And I'm like, man, like, let's wipe this out, put be who you say you are up. And the facilities guy that walked through with me the very first time with myself and our chief of staff, like, man, coach, this was like $90,000. I'm like, yeah, man, like, I know, but I can't say that. Like, it's just, we got to get it out. It's literally on the way out of the locker room. That's what the kids see every day walking in here. Like, he's like, man, like it's going to cost, like, now that it's already in there, like, it's going to cost like over $100,000 to, like, I'm like, I know, man. Like, so one of the first meetings I had with the AD, like, man, like, literally a couple days in, like, man, you got everything you need. What do you need? Like, hey, man, like, I know you could, I told you whatever we got to do, but like, you really want to spend $100,000 on like these locker signs? I'm like, you got to get that shit off the wall. However, so forever, it literally just had this white tarp over it, covered up. But the story I was going to tell you was, and this was a year into being here, we got a leadership council, and one of the young men in our leadership council, who's a young guy, comes from a really good high school program. We were talking about our standards and how the leadership council, how they have to live the standards and be about the standards and whatever. And he said, Coach, I got a question for you. Like, how do you know when, and this was powerful to me as a coach, when the young man's like asked this question, he said, Coach, how do you know when, like, you got these core values on the wall? Like, how do you know when those are just like words on a wall and when they are what your program is? And I was like, man, like, it's powerful. Like, a powerful question, meaning, like, I hadn't really thought about that you guys would ever see it as words on a wall. I kind of saw it as it's what's important to me, and I got to make it important to you. And he's like, he looks at me and he's like, okay, how do you know if it's important to us? I'm like, well, I don't know it's important to you when you guys live what we say we're going to live by. And it made sense to him. But for me, from that moment on, I'm like, man, like, whatever you put up in front of these guys, like, one, explain the why. Two, make sure it's relevant to what you really, like, almost like say what you mean what you say. Like don't ever just slap shit on a wall.
Yeah.
Just because you read it in a book or a leadership book or somebody else did it, make sure it's yours and it stands for what you truly are going to live and uphold within your program every single day. And ultimately, you talk about culture, like, are you living what's important to you? And, you know, and like going into year 3 here, I've thought and questioned and demanded of our coaches, like, have we in 2.5 years now built an identity? Like if you ask our kids who we are at our core, they tell you, can your coaches tell you, as the head coach, do I know what it is? Because I think, like, culture, yeah, buzzword, like, certainly used a lot and overused probably in a lot of ways.
Yeah. But
ultimately, like, what's your identity as a program? And I think going into this third year, like, it's now we're 2 recruiting classes, almost an overhaul of the roster. And if not overhauled, then the guys that are still here, they're still here because they truly are now your guys and have bought into what you're doing. Like, your culture is your identity. And you should be able to watch a game on a Saturday.
See it, yeah.
And you as somebody that knows ball, and Johnny, football fans, should be able to tell you what your culture is.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, kind of as we come to a close here, and this is definitely leaving way for a part 3 next summer, because I had a lot more stuff I want to talk to you about. But, man, you had the opportunity, as you mentioned early on, to work for an awesome Coach Heupel, and really get that thing rolling over there at Tennessee. Had a great opportunity at Iowa State, you know, and you know, I'm sure some of the other spots you could probably highlight, man. But you've had the opportunity to work for some awesome guys that had success. let me ask you that question. Did those guys exemplify what that team culture was? Like, did at Tennessee, if you pulled the starting linebacker out, would he be able to say, oh, yeah, this is what's on our walls? And this is not a gotcha moment by any means, but, that's a good question. A lot of people have the stuff on the walls. A lot of people have, they say as a head coach what they believe their team is about. But do the players, do you feel like that at those places you had success at, that was the case?
I think if I learned anything is that it took time. It took time really at every place that we've had success. It took time. Like, I think if I learned anything, you could look at Tennessee, you could look at Iowa State, you could look at Toledo. Like, I think that happens over time as you recruit, as you retain, as you develop, as you build relationships within your program. I think the one common, and it goes back to what you're asking, I think the one common trend is when we got really good, I think what matched with that is the players owned the standards of the program. Meaning, yes, they could regurgitate it to you, but really they owned it, they lived it, and they drove the standards or the culture within the program. Because I think when it's coach driven, or the coaches uphold the standards daily, you cap out, you max out. You're essentially, I think the best you could be is average. And both the places you mentioned, there were years early on where we were average. Mm-hmm. And then as you built it, and time is the only thing that you can point to say, man, like, it took however many years, but man, over time, it became player driven. Yeah. I think, like, you look at Tennessee, what Coach Heupel's done a great job is it became player driven relatively quickly. Now, part of that is Coach Heupel empowering the players, but part of that is having an incredible staff and then players that bought in and held the standard. You look at Iowa State, Matt's been there for 10 years. Like over time, and as we had success there, and as Matt has continued to have a high level of success, you recruited guys and they just taught each other. Yeah. And they continue to try to raise the standard and hold the standard themselves. When it becomes player driven rather than coach driven, I think you can do really, really powerful things. And at both those places, that's what you saw happen.
Yeah. And like I said it was the last question, but I'm going to make the statement, see if you got anything to say to it. It as I'm listening to this and I'm reflecting on my time as a coach, and I'm like, man, the kids that I coached, did I reflect I didn't purposely by any means. I don't think I ever went in there with the mentality like, all right, hey, this is our philosophy, this is how I'm going to do things. I think I put my own spin on it. But what comes first, the chicken or the egg in those situations? Like, do you win and people buy in, or do they buy into that culture and then the win, and then the success comes? Because they do go hand in hand to a certain extent, but it's like, which one comes first, I guess?
Yeah, I truly believe that you hammer home the process of the day to day. And I think football is a unique game because there's 12 guaranteed opportunities. There's so much time throughout the year that's not filled with games. I think different than basketball where you got 35, 40 of them where it's you got 12 to essentially prove what you are as a football team. I think it has to become so process driven where the process is all you really focus on. Mm-hmm. Your day to day, you're literally from how you wake up to how you greet your teammates to what your locker looks like to how you eat, how you sleep, how you hydrate, to how you lead, to what you put in your body, to what your expectation of your teammates is, to all of it, like your day to day, the decisions you make outside of here, to how you treat your relationships with women, to literally what your fun looks like on the weekends, to what your focus level is on your football team, on your teammates, all of it, like your day-to-day process, that has to be the focus. Because if you're outcome driven, I think you're always going to judge everything on the end result, right? Like, man, we won, so we good.
We're good, yeah.
Where if you're process driven and things go well, awesome, revert right back to your process. Things don't go well, awesome, revert right back to your process.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where in the process did I cheat it?
Absolutely.
Or where do I need to get better in my process? And you go back every single day, every single week, month, and then ultimately year, and you continue to evolve the process. So to answer your question, it's all about the process portion, and then the end result's the end result. I think in a lot of ways, if you in every way, if all you worry about is the end result, you're going to skip steps. And you could skip some steps and still have a really good result. And then you're going to think that the skipping steps part was the way to go. But I think ultimately, and I mean this wholeheartedly, and not to be more holistic about it than it is, but like, we are still here ultimately to build young men. And I think if we teach them what daily process looks like, and eventually it becomes sustainable habits, then we've done our job in terms of getting these guys ready to go be elite husbands, elite fathers, elite human beings in society. Ultimately, and we use football to teach all of that to them. And the wins and the losses and the successes and the failures and the growth you make through the failures will help them go be incredible men in society. We're just using football as an avenue to do that. I think that gets lost and nobody cares about it outside of this coaching world. Because I am still not naive. I understand that I get evaluated on wins and losses at the end of the day, and I'm cool. But whenever my journey is over, I know what I want to be and what I want to be comfortable with is that I want a bunch of former players and guys that I've worked with to say, man, like, that dude really, really changed my life and helped me. I think the older I get, the more important that is to me. But that reverts me right back to, are we teaching process? Are we teaching sustainable habits? And are we teaching these guys what it looks like to be a winner every single day? The football part, man, I think it's a byproduct and a result of all of that.
Coach, I always appreciate the time I get to listen to you and talk to you, man. You make me sharper every time, man. Very much appreciated. Hoping to see you to some capacity there in Charlotte. Hopefully come speak to our guys again. You always do a tremendous job, and if you listen to this podcast, they all mention it. So always appreciative of you and your time, man, and best of luck to you as you roll into the season, okay?
Thanks, Mario. I appreciate it, man.
All right. Have a good one, brother. Later.
CoachComm has been delivering tough headsets for tough teams for more than 31 years. It's why 97% of FBS teams and thousands of high schools across the country rely on CoachComm. Get the best for your team. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm. If you'd like to learn more about this week's episode, head over to AFCA.com. There, you can access every episode and find corresponding show notes. Remember, you can catch every episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm, on wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. While you're there, we'd love for you to take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Your feedback helps us improve and grow. Keep up with the latest news by following us on social media. Connect with us at Inside the Headset, and remember to tag us when you share your favorite episodes. For more updates on all things AFCA, be sure to follow the @WeAreAFCA social media accounts. If you're not a part of the AFCA community yet, visit AFCA.com to join thousands of NFL, college, and high school coaches nationwide and across the globe. Elevate your coaching game with an AFCA membership. You'll gain exclusive access to the annual AFCA convention, magazine, digital library, and AFCA Insider email. Stay up to date with the latest stories and news on the AFCA website. More than just a convention, the AFCA offers continuous education, guidance, networking, and more. Celebrate the past and shape the future with the AFCA. It's about fostering exceptional coaches who create outstanding teams and even better individuals. Invest in your skills and make a lasting impact today by engaging with the AFCA. Your journey starts here.